The great hall of Xerion Prime glowed with cold blue light. Crystal pillars reached toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into mist. Hundreds of alien nobles sat on golden seats, their faces sharp and proud, their clothes shimmering like flowing silver fire. Tonight was a night of power, where houses made deals and displayed their wealth. And in the center of the hall stood a human. Chains rattled around his wrists as guards pushed him forward. He was tall for his kind, but among these towering aliens, he looked small. His clothes were torn, and dried blood marked his cheek. Yet his eyes, sharp, blue, and calm, never looked down. He stared back at the aliens as if daring them to speak first. Whispers filled the air. "That's the human soldier? From the border war." Another voice hissed, "Why is it still alive?" At the far end of the hall sat Lord Kale Virith, the most feared noble in the Empire. His cloak of silver and black shimmered with royal symbols, and his golden eyes burned with quiet fire. When Kale stood, the whispers died. Even the music stopped. Kale's voice carried like steel. "This creature claims humans are strong." His lips curled in amusement as he looked at the chained man. "Strong enough to survive our trials. Strong enough to fight as we do." The hall erupted in laughter. Deep, cold laughter that echoed like thunder. Some nobles even stood, pointing at the human. "Strong?" one sneered. "They barely know how to hold a blade." Kale raised his hand, and silence fell again. Slowly, he walked down the steps, each footstep echoing against the marble floor. He stopped before the human and studied him, like one might study a curious animal. "What is your name, human?" Kale asked, his voice low. "Ethan Halley," the man said calmly, his chains clinking as he straightened his back. "Ethan Hall," Kale repeated, tasting the words. "Tell me, do you truly believe you could fight one of my warriors?" Ethan's lips curved into the faintest smile. "If you unchain me, we'll see." Gasps rippled through the hall. No one ever spoke to Kale that way. Kale's golden eyes narrowed not in anger, but in something far more dangerous. Interest. Then his voice rose, cold and sharp as a blade. "I will make a wager," he announced. The hall fell silent. Every noble leaned forward, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Kale turned, his silver cloak sweeping the floor like a storm. "I wager the name of House Virith, my lands, my crest, my entire bloodline's honor." His voice thundered across the chamber. "If this human defeats my champion in the arena of blades, I will surrender everything." The hall exploded with chaos. Nobles leaped from their seats, shouting, "Magnus! Kale, you've lost your mind. A human is nothing, he will die in moments." Kale ignored them all. His golden eyes never left Ethan's face. "And if he loses," Kale said softly, "his head will decorate the gates of Xerion Prime." A cruel hush fell. Ethan tilted his head, his blue eyes burning like cold fire. "You sure about that?" His voice was calm, almost amused, like a man who had nothing to lose. Kale smiled for the first time that night, a slow, dangerous smile. "I have never been more certain." The nobles whispered furiously, some in shock, others laughing as if this was the greatest entertainment of their lives. Bets began immediately, fortunes of credits, rare jewels, even whole planets wagered on the human's death. Kale gestured, and the chains fell from Ethan's wrists with a heavy clang. The human rubbed his bruised skin, eyes scanning the hall. Like a predator entering a den. "Prepare the arena," Kale commanded, his voice echoing like thunder. "Summon my champion." The great doors at the far end of the hall opened with a deep, growling hiss. And then they heard the sound of something heavy moving. The ground trembled as a figure stepped into view, towering and monstrous, its armor black as midnight, blades gleaming from its arms. The alien champion was twice Ethan's size. muscles rippling beneath thick plates of bone and steel. The nobles roared in approval, their voices like a storm. "This will be over in seconds. Kill him, tear him apart." Kale turned to Ethan, his smile cold as ice. "Your trial begins at dawn," he said. "Pray, human, if your kind believes in such things." Ethan looked up at the towering champion, then back at Kale, and then he did something no one expected. He grinned. "Don't need prayers," he said quietly. "I just need a chance." Asterisk, the first thing Ethan heard was not cheering. It was the sound of metal grinding against stone, a deep growl that didn't belong to any human throat. The gate was opening, and something monstrous was coming for him. The arena of Zerion Prime was a coliseum carved from obsidian, towering high into the stormy sky. Its walls gleamed like black glass, etched with the names of warriors who had died for glory. Today, the last name etched might be Ethan Hale, a human who had no right to stand there. Tens of thousands of aliens filled the seats, their scaled faces glinting under the twin suns. They hissed and roared for blood, their voices merging into a single terrifying chorus. Kill the human. Break the bones. Spill the blood. Ethan stood barefoot on hot black sand, the chains gone, but his body heavy with exhaustion. No armor, no weapon, only his mind and the will to survive. He glanced at the far gate as it rose with a deafening clang. The creature stepped through Dot. It was huge, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in living armor that pulsed like molten steel. 4 arms ended in blades that shimmered like liquid fire. Its eyes glowed like coals, and its breathing was a low growl that shook the sand. The Zereth champion, undefeated for 30 battles. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Behold, the human versus the pride of Zerion. Fight to the death." The crowd erupted. Ethan didn't move. His heartbeat pounded, but his mind stayed clear. He remembered Kale's cold eyes, that mocking smile, the promise of freedom. He remembered Earth, the blue sky, his sister's laughter. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every human still in chains. The beast charged. The ground shook under its weight. Its first strike came like lightning, 4 blades slashing at once. Ethan rolled, sand scorching his skin. The air sliced open where his head had been a second ago. He barely rose to his feet before the next strike slammed into the ground, sending shards of obsidian flying. Ethan grabbed a broken shard, a blade against an ocean of steel. Better than nothing. He ducked another strike, sand blinding his eyes, pain tearing through his ribs as a claw grazed him. Blood dripped down his side. The crowd howled for more. "Come on, think," he muttered under his breath. "You can't win by strength." He ran not away, but around. He studied the arena floor, the cracks in the obsidian, the pillars of stone rising like teeth. The Zereth chased, roaring, blades slashing. Ethan darted between pillars, making the giant twist and turn, forcing it to hit stone instead of flesh. Each missed strike made the beast angrier. He spotted what he needed, a massive iron spike holding a pillar chain. He sprinted, heart hammering. As the Zereth lunged again, Ethan dove, grabbed the chain, and swung it with all his strength. It wrapped around the beast's arm. The alien roared and ripped the chain free, but now its own blade arm was tangled. Ethan didn't hesitate. He jumped on the creature's back, using the chain to pull its head back, exposing its neck. With the shard of obsidian, he drove deep over and over until black blood poured like tar. The Zereth screamed, its voice echoing through the entire arena, then fell with a thunderous crash. Silence. The entire stadium froze. No one moved. No one breathed. The black sand was soaked with alien blood, and a single human stood over the corpse, chest heaving, eyes blazing like fire. Then the roar came. louder than anything Ethan had ever heard. Half in rage, half in awe. Some aliens tore at their garments. Others stared as if looking at something impossible. A human had killed a Zereth champion. High above, in the royal balcony, Kale rose from his seat. His golden eyes burned with something no one could read. Not anger, not even surprise, but something darker and far more dangerous. Ethan looked up at him. The crowd screamed his name now, not in respect, but in fear. Kale smiled slowly. This changes everything, he thought. The taste of iron filled Ethan's mouth as the guards slammed the heavy cell door behind him. The cheering from the arena still echoed in his ears, cheering for his death, not his victory. The room was dark and cold, carved from black stone that pulsed faintly with alien energy. Chains hung from the ceiling like the ribs of a dead beast. Ethan sat on the floor, back against the wall, blood drying on his ribs. His hands trembled not from fear, but from exhaustion. Every muscle screamed, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had survived. He had done the impossible. And that terrified them more than his defeat ever could. Footsteps broke the silence. Slow, deliberate. Ethan looked up and saw Lord Kale enter. The cell. His silver cloak flowed like liquid moonlight, untouched by dust or blood. His golden eyes glowed faintly, cold as starlight. 2 guards stood behind him, but Kale waved them away. The door sealed with a hiss, leaving them alone. For a long moment, Kale said nothing. He simply studied Ethan like one studies a rare, dangerous creature. Then finally he spoke. "You should be dead." His voice was calm, but there was an edge, like a blade hidden in velvet. Ethan smirked faintly, even through the pain. "Yeah, I've heard that before." Kale circled him slowly, his boots clicking against the stone. "You humiliated me," he said. "Not by winning, but by making me look like a fool in front of the council." Ethan tilted his head. "So what now? Execution?" "Thought that was the plan from the start." Kale stopped and crouched in front of him, golden eyes locking on blue. "No," he said softly. "You interest me, human. Your kind interests me." Ethan frowned. "I'm not here to entertain your curiosity." Kale's lips curved into a cold smile. "Not curiosity, strategy. You see, by winning, you've made me a target. Every house now wants me destroyed. They call me reckless, weak. They say I gambled the honor of my bloodline on an animal." Ethan's voice was dry. "That sounds like your problem, not mine." Kale ignored the jab. His tone lowered, sharp as glass. "Unless we make it their problem." Ethan stared at him. "What are you proposing?" Kale leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "There is a trial. The trial of ascendancy. It decides who rules the High Council. If I lose, my house burns. If I win, I control the Empire. But to win, I need something the others don't. Have." His eyes burned now, molten cold. "I need you." Ethan laughed a short, humorless sound. "You want me to fight for you? After you chained me up and paraded me like an animal?" Kale's smile didn't falter. "Fight for me, and I swear on the blood of my ancestors, I will give you what no human has ever had. Freedom, not just for you. For your world." The words hit Ethan like a punch. He froze. "Earth, yes," Kale said smoothly. "The Council sees humans as nothing. Slaves, pets. But if I win this trial, I can rewrite that. I can give you independence. All I ask is that you stand with me and keep fighting." Ethan's jaw tightened. His mind raced. Freedom for Earth. At the cost of trusting the alien who chained him? Could he believe Kale? Or was this just another game? "You don't strike me as the type who fights for others," Ethan said slowly. Kale's gaze hardened. "I fight for change. My people have grown arrogant, stagnant. You proved today that strength does not belong to one race alone. With you, I can shatter the old ways. For the first time, Ethan saw something in Kale's eyes, not pride, not cruelty, but something colder. Desperation. Before Ethan could answer, a shadow flickered at the edge of the doorway. Kale stood instantly, his hand on the blade at his side. A figure stepped from the dark tall, cloaked with eyes like burning coals. Kale, the figure hissed, voice dripping venom. You dare defy the council? Kale didn't flinch. I dare survive? The intruder's eyes shifted to Ethan. Then you'll survive without him. The blade flashed aimed at Ethan's throat. Asterisk, the first blade whispered through the air like a breath of wind silent, invisible, until it kissed the skin of Ethan's neck. Time slowed. His instincts screamed before his mind could catch up. Ethan twisted, the blade slicing his shoulder instead of his throat. Pain burned through him as the assassin struck again, a blur of steel in the dim cell. He rolled, chains clanging against the stone floor as Kale's voice ripped through the dark. Alive. I need him alive. The assassin didn't answer. The next strike came faster, deadlier. Ethan grabbed a loose chain and wrapped it around the attacker's arm, yanking hard. The assassin snarled, inhumanly strong, and slammed him against the wall. Kale moved like a predator, silver cloak whipping behind him. His blade sang as it met the assassin's dagger in a shower of sparks. The sound of metal on metal filled the cell, sharp and furious. Ethan crawled toward the corner, blood slicking his arm, heart hammering like a war drum. This wasn't random. Someone had sent this killer for one purpose, to erase him before. The trial even began. Stay down. Kale barked as the assassin spun low, slashing for his legs. Kale leaped, his golden eyes blazing with cold fury. Coward. The assassin laughed, a hollow, mechanical sound. They said you'd fall. For this, and you did. Kale's jaw tightened. His blade locked with the assassin's dagger, both straining for dominance. The killer twisted suddenly, breaking free, and lunged for Ethan again. Not this time. Ethan grabbed a jagged stone from the floor and hurled it with all his strength. It struck the assassin's temple, hard enough to stagger him. That single second was all Kale needed. His blade flashed like lightning, cutting through flesh and armor in one lethal strike. The assassin fell, head rolling across the floor with a dull thud. Silence returned, but it wasn't peace. It was heavier, sharper, filled with the smell of blood and the echo of betrayal. Ethan sat against the wall, breathing hard. His eyes flicked to the body, then to Kale. That was close. Kale's voice was ice. Too close. He bent down, pulling a small sigil from the assassin's belt. The metal glowed faintly with a crimson mark, the seal of the High Council. Ethan's stomach twisted. They sent him? The same people you're trying to beat? Kale's face was a mask of fury and calculation. They're afraid. Afraid of what you did in that arena. Afraid of what you mean. He crushed the sigil in his fist, shards falling. Like broken stars. Now they'll come harder. They won't stop until you're dead. Ethan wiped blood from his arm. Then maybe letting me walk out of here isn't such a bad idea. Kale's gaze burned into him. If you walk out, you die before you reach the gates. They'll send hundreds. You'll never make it. So what's your plan? Ethan asked, his voice sharp. Kale moved closer, crouching low so their eyes locked. You stay with me. You fight for me in the trial of ascendancy. And when I win, the Empire changes. His voice softened, just barely. I swear it, human. You'll have your freedom, and your world will have peace. Ethan's jaw tightened. And if you lose? Kale didn't blink. Then we both die. For a long moment, Silence hung heavy between them. Ethan could hear his own heartbeat, fast and hard. He hated Cale. He didn't trust him. But he hated something else even more. The idea of going back in chains. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Fine. I'll fight. But hear me, Cale. If you cross me, I'll kill you myself." Cale's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile, spoken like a true warrior. Before Ethan could answer, the wall behind them exploded inward in a shower of stone and fire. Both men dove as a blast of energy ripped through the cell, throwing sparks and debris. Smoke filled the air, and through the haze they saw them, 3 more assassins, armored in black, weapons glowing with crimson light. Cale snarled, blades drawn. Ethan grabbed a fallen dagger, blood dripping from his arm. His voice was cold. "Steel. Yes, the Council really doesn't want us alive." Cale's golden eyes flared. "Then let's disappoint them." The flames were real. Ethan felt the heat lick his skin as the floor beneath him cracked open, spilling rivers of molten fire. This wasn't an arena, it was a death sentence. The roar of the crowd shook the colossal chamber, a sound like thunder breaking mountains. Today wasn't for entertainment. This was the trial of ascendancy, the Empire's most sacred ritual. A contest that decided power among the ruling houses. But today, something unthinkable had happened. A human stood in the center. Ethan squinted against the glare of molten rivers that cut across the arena like glowing scars. Platforms of black stone floated over the fire, chained together by fragile bridges. Above him, hundreds of alien nobles stared from balconies carved into obsidian walls, their jeweled robes glittering like stars. They weren't cheering. They were hungry for blood, for humiliation, for Cale's downfall. And there Cale stood, far above, on the royal dais, golden eyes fixed on Ethan. He looked calm, too calm, but Ethan could see the tension in his jaw. This wasn't a fight for glory. This was a fight for survival, for both of them. The announcer's voice boomed across the chamber, low and cruel. "Trial 1. Firewalk. Cross the arena before the flames claim you. Only one may stand at the end." Ethan's blood turned cold. "Only one?" He muttered. The gates opened and 2 alien warriors stepped in. Both were titans, armored in gleaming steel that shimmered with heat. Their blades glowed white-hot. They weren't here to win. They were here to kill him. The floor trembled. A massive chain snapped, and one of the stone platforms sank halfway into the lava, spitting sparks. The heat rose like a living thing, searing Ethan's lungs. Asterisk. He glanced up. Cale's voice crackled softly in his ear, through the tiny cum hidden in his collar. "Survive, no matter what. Show them fear has no place in you." "Easy for you to say," Ethan muttered, leaping as the platform beneath him split in 2. His boots slammed onto the next stone slab, heat biting through his soles. The first warrior charged, moving impossibly fast for its size. Its blade cut through the chain bridge like paper, sending it crashing into the lava below. Ethan dove, rolled, barely gripping the edge of the next platform. His fingers burned on the black stone as the molten fire hissed inches away. "Great," he muttered, pulling himself up, playing Flora's lava with death machines. The second warrior swung from behind, blade screaming through the air. Ethan ducked, felt the heat kiss his hair, and drove his shoulder into the alien's legs. It staggered, then backhanded him so hard his vision flashed white. Ethan hit the ground, chest screaming in pain, and saw the first warrior coming at him again. Both enemies closing in. 2 blades, 1 human, nowhere to run. Until he saw it, a thin chain overhead, holding a dangling platform. If he could break it, Ethan sprinted as the warriors lunged. He dove, grabbing a broken spear from the floor, and hurled it at the chain. Sparks flew as the iron link snapped, and the platform fell like a meteor, slamming into the lava with a boom that shook the arena. Molten fire surged upward, a tidal wave of heat that swallowed both warriors in a storm of flame. The crowd gasped as their champions burned alive, their screams echoing against black walls. Ethan crouched low, heat blistering his skin, lungs, choking on ash but alive. When the firestorm cleared, he stood on a lone slab of stone, the only survivor. His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. High above, Kale didn't clap. He didn't smile. He only turned to the High Council, voice cutting like a blade. Do you see now? The human is stronger than your fear. The council leader's eyes narrowed. Then let him face the second trial. Ethan froze as the floor shifted beneath him. The stone cracked open, and something enormous moved in the shadows below. Chains rattled. A deep growl rolled through the heat, shaking the air. Kale's voice came again in his ear, sharper this time. Ethan, whatever happens next, don't die. From the pit, a beast rose towering, monstrous, its skin molten like living magma, its claws the size of swords. It opened its mouth and roared, a sound like the core of a burning star. Ethan grinned, despite the terror clawing his chest. Sure, no pressure. Asterisk, the cheers had stopped. The fire was gone. And in the silence of the council chamber, Ethan realized the next trial wasn't about strength. It was about his soul. He stood in the center of a circular hall, carved from black stone that shimmered like frozen night. Above him, banners of alien houses hung like silent judges. The air was heavy, so heavy it pressed against his chest. Kale stood across from him, tall and unyielding, his silver cloak rippling like a phantom in the cold light. His golden eyes, sharp as blades, were calm. Too calm. The High Council loomed in their thrones, their voices like venom dripping from steel. The eldest among them, draped in crimson silk, spoke slowly, savoring every word. You have survived the flames, human. You have proven your body strong. Now we shall test your heart. Ethan's fists clenched. His arms still burned from the fire trial. His ribs ached from broken blows, but this was different. This was worse. What kind of test? His voice was steady, but his stomach knotted like twisted wire. The elder's lips curled. To win the ascendancy, Lord Kale must prove absolute loyalty. And you, his champion, must prove yours. Ethan glanced at Kale. The noble stood still, expression unreadable. What does that mean? Ethan demanded. The elder's words were knives. Kill him. The world went still. For a long moment, Ethan thought he'd misheard. His voice cracked when he spoke. What? The elder's voice rose like a death bell. Take that blade. End Lord Kale's life. Do it now, or the trial is forfeit. A guard stepped forward, offering a weapon, a curved blade forged from black crystal, glowing faintly like it was alive. Its weight dragged at Ethan's hand as he took it without thinking. He looked at Kale. The noble didn't flinch, didn't move. Slowly, he walked closer, every step echoing like thunder. Then he knelt right there, on the cold stone floor, and lowered his head. Golden eyes lifted to meet blue. For the first time, Ethan saw something in Kale's gaze. Not arrogance, not ambition, but something softer. If this is what it takes, Kale said quietly, do it. Ethan's throat closed. This is insane, he hissed. Kale's voice was calm as a storm before it breaks. If you don't, everything we fought for dies. Your world burns. Every human stays in chains. Ethan's hands trembled around the blade. Kill him? A man who saved him from the assassins? The man who promised freedom? The man who, in his own cold, twisted way, had started to feel like an ally? You're asking me to? Ethan's voice cracked. I'm not asking. Kale said softly. I'm giving you a choice. The council hissed in delight, their eyes glowing like predators. They wanted blood. They wanted to see humanity's hope die on this floor. Ethan's heart pounded so hard it hurt. He remembered earth-green forests, blue skies, the laughter of children who didn't even know this empire existed. He remembered his sister's voice. Come home safe. Could he trade one life for billions? Could he kill a man who had risked everything for a chance at change? The blade felt heavier than the world. He raised it, the black crystal gleaming under the cold lights. Kale closed his eyes, calm even now. Waiting, and then Ethan let out a raw cry and threw the blade to the floor, the sound shattering the silence like breaking bones. No, he roared. You want a monster? Find someone else. Gasps ripped through the chamber. Nobles rose, hissing like a nest of snakes. The council leader's voice thundered. Then the trial is broken. Both of you will. Ethan stepped forward, voice like fire. No, you don't get to hide behind your games. You want loyalty? You want strength? Then listen. His voice rose, every word like a hammer blow. You call yourselves rulers, but you're just cowards hiding in silk. You think power comes from bloodlines? From killing friends? No, power comes from choice. From the courage to fight for more than yourself. The council chamber shook with fury. Some nobles shouted for Ethan's death. Others whispered, their faces pale. Because deep down, they knew his words were true. The elder's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Enough! Guards, the doors exploded inward with a blast of fire. Soldiers stormed in Kale's rivals, cloaked in crimson, weapons blazing. Screams filled the hall as energy bolts ripped through the air. Assassins spilled from the shadows. The council wasn't just angry. They were making their move. Kale rose in one fluid motion, his blade flashing. His voice was iron. Ethan, with me. Ethan grabbed the fallen black blade, heart pounding, rage burning. Let's end this. Asterisk the first. Thing Ethan saw was blood dripping across the council floor silver, not red. The second thing was Kale, standing over 3 dead nobles with his blade blazing like a sun. The high council chamber was no longer a hall of judgment. It was a battlefield. Alien banners burned, flames crawling up walls carved from black stone. Screens and steel clashed as rival houses stormed in, their assassins slaughtering anyone in Kale's colors. Ethan spun, cutting down a soldier with the black crystal blade he'd refused to use on Kale minutes ago. His heart pounded, lungs on. Fire. He had faced monsters, lava beasts, assassins in shadows, but this was different. This wasn't a trial. This was war. Kale fought like the legends whispered in shadows, every strike a storm, every move a death sentence. Golden eyes burned like twin suns as he roared, for House Virith, for change. But for every enemy Kale killed, 3 more surged through the shattered doors. Ethan moved to his side, back to back, blades flashing. The air burned with the stench of plasma fire and blood. Your council, Ethan grunted between strikes, has really bad manners. Kale laughed, low and sharp, even as his blade carved another foe in 2. You still have time to run. Human. Not a chance? Ethan growled, hurling his blade through an assassin's throat. We finish this together. Kale's lips curled into something that almost looked like pride. But then the walls shook. A thunderous boom split the chamber as the ceiling cracked open, and through it descended the true horror. Warships. The council had called the fleets. The sky beyond the shattered roof burned with engines as hundreds of black destroyers moved into orbit, blotting out the twin suns. Columns of fire rained from the heavens as dropships screamed toward the palace. Kale's face hardened. His voice was raw iron. We can't hold them here. Then what? Ethan barked, deflecting. A strike, asterisk. Kale pointed toward the breach, where the flames tore through the sky. We take the fight to the stars. Before Ethan could answer, a plasma bolt tore past his head, incinerating a pillar. Kale grabbed his arm and dragged him toward a hidden corridor, walls sliding open to reveal a narrow passage lined with glowing veins of blue light. They ran through smoke, through fire, through halls dripping with blood. Behind them, assassins gave chase, boots pounding like drums of war. Ahead, the walls pulsed with alarms. Finally, they burst into a vast hangar where ships slept like silent predators under scarlet lights. Kale sprinted to a sleek black warcraft, its wings sharp as knives. "Ever flown one of these?" Kale asked, vaulting into the cockpit. Ethan grinned, chest heaving. "Nope." "Good," Kale smirked. "Then hang on." The ship roared to life, engines screaming as they shot from the hangar into a sky on fire. Ethan slammed into his seat. As they punched through the smoke and into the void of space only to find the fleet waiting, dozens of enemy cruisers pivoted in unison, their cannons glowing like the eyes of gods. Ethan stared, heart thundering. "Kale, we're two guys and a knife, and they've got 1,000,000 swords." Kale's golden eyes glinted like firelight. "Then let's cut where it hurts." He plunged the ship into a death spiral, weaving through torrents of plasma fire. Explosions tore the void apart, painting the black with blossoms of flame. Ethan gripped the controls when Kale barked, "Take the guns," and unleashed hell, shredding enemy fighters into burning dust. But even as they fought, a massive flagship of the Council loomed ahead, a beast of metal miles long, its cannon charging with the power to vaporize an entire planet. Kale's jaw tightened. "That weapon is aimed at Earth." Ethan's blood ran cold. His home, his people. He could almost hear his sister's voice. "Come home safe." "Then we stop it," Ethan said through clenched teeth. Kale nodded once. "We'll have one chance." They dove through the storm of fire, engines screaming as enemy ships swarmed like hornets. The flagship's cannon glowed brighter, a star being born in its heart. Ethan felt the heat of it even through the void. Kale slammed the throttle. "We hit the core, but the overload will kill us both," Ethan finished, gripping the guns tighter. His voice was steady now. "Then let's make it count." For a heartbeat, Kale looked at him, really looked, and something unspoken passed between them. Respect, bond, brotherhood. Then they charged. The black warcraft streaked through fire, through fleets, through death itself, plunging toward the heart of the flagship as alarms screamed across the galaxy. The cannon fired too late. Kale and Ethan's ship struck the core, and the world exploded in a sun of white fire. Silenced. When the light faded, the flagship was gone. The fleet shattered. Across 1,000 systems, the Empire trembled. Later, in whispers that spread like fire, they spoke of the human who defied gods and the alien lord who died beside him. They said their names like prayers. Ethan Hall, Kale Vireth. And in the black between stars, something new was born. Hope. Asterisk, a lone escape pod drifts in the unsink void. Inside, Ethan stirs, eyes opening to a broken galaxy, and a single thought on his lips. This isn't over. Asterisk, the end.